wow, this is one of the dullest, most basic funnels I've ever seen, but they're making over $20 million per year with it. While marketing gurus are selling you on fancy designs and complex templates, boring funnels are quietly printing money. But why and how? I'm talking 4 to 5 basic pages with little copy in many cases and profit margins that would make most agencies melt with jealousy. After 19 years of building funnels that generate 6 and 7 figures, I've learned one uncomfortable truth. Your belief that there is a right answer, that a funnel has to be perfect, complex, or even that there is a right answer, it's costing you millions. To prove it, I'm about to show you 4 boring funnel examples that print leads and sales, including the 5-page funnel that grew our revenue by 936% in just 8 months. But along the way, you're going to understand why perfect and complex funnel design is the enemy of profit. By the end, you will know the tactical principles that separate multi-million-dollar winning funnels from good-looking but loses money disasters. Plus, you'll get the actionable data-backed tactics to build your own boring but prints profits sales funnel. So let's now take a look at the 7-step sales funnel that turned $4,000 in ad spend into over $200,000 in annual recurring revenue. So this 7-step funnel was documented as part of a case study on the Segmetrics blog. And we're going to walk through right now to see what can we extract from it and how is it actually constructed. So I think what makes this funnel interesting as well as boring is just the fact that it is only 7 steps. And kind of the reason why it ended up working, there are many factors involved that are beyond just the construction of the actual steps of the funnel. I think this is going to be like a reoccurring theme throughout this video, as you will see, that it's not just about, okay, you need this many steps and it needs to be constructed in this way. It's that there are many other factors that contribute to the funnel actually working beyond the actual kind of like planning and architecting of the funnel. It's a very nuanced. And so, for example, here on the Segmetrics blog, we don't know exactly what the company name is. And that's okay because we have enough information from the case study. For example, we know that this is a SaaS business and they were selling some sort of a like landing page builder that would help other marketers, consultants, agencies, and business owners to actually build out their own website, landing pages, funnel, and so on. And I sort of have joked in past videos about like, you know, there are the 3 M's of the forthcoming apocalypse. And they are the 3 M's are marketers, marketing. And I've said that sarcastically, in part because like there's so much like meta-ness that's going on in terms of digital marketing all the time. And oftentimes, like in this case, it's a case study about a company that sells a marketing product, essentially. I mean, it's a digital marketing landing page builder, funnel builder tool, and it's marketing itself to others. And you might say, well, okay, like, is this actually going to be relevant to my business? Because chances are that you are not selling the exact same product or service as them. And even that applies to the other example in this video too. But the key is that these principles, they do in fact apply across industries. In fact, in less developed industries and less competitive industries, because digital marketing is so crowded, that there are so many people online who are in the digital marketing, make more money for your business type of space, that if you are in an industry that is like further away from that, there's actually a really good chance that these tactics and principles that we're exploring here and in other videos, by the way, subscribe if you end up getting a lot of value from this, and please consider sharing it and leave a comment. I would love to hear from you and respond to it. But yeah, these tactics apply across industries, and the kind of further that your market, your industry is from this, there's actually a greater chance, depending on what the offer is, that these tactics and principles will actually work better for you. So basically what this company did is they created several blog articles, and then they ran ads targeting people to then go read these blog articles. And it's very simple. They use a mix of traditional ads. They also use lookalike audiences on Facebook. If you're not familiar, it's basically you upload an email list, for instance, and Facebook/Meta will be able to target people who are similar to those people that you uploaded in terms of like their names and emails. And then they also used a lot of retargeting ads, which was a big factor in how they were able to keep the cost down, because retargeting ads are significantly less expensive compared to regular traditional ads. So here's exactly how the funnel was constructed. They first had an attention getting post, where essentially the idea was to, just as like the number one rule of marketing, what's the number one rule of marketing? Get attention, right? get attention, and then you channel that into some sort of an offer, like a lead magnet or some sort of a tripwire, or even for your core offer, for example. But rule number one in marketing: get attention. If no one sees you, if people aren't aware of you, there is no opportunity to actually sell. So that was their attention post, designed to capture the Facebook users' attention as they scrolled through the newsfeed. Then they had a trends post. This is where they talked about trends. So their second step in the funnel was they made a trends post, and then they promoted that with ads. And they don't really say in the case study exactly what they mean by trends post, but you can kind of use your imagination. Essentially, trends, what that means to me is that they were sharing some sort of data, maybe a bit of research to show where the market is going and how businesses are performing maybe better with different types of landing page builders or funnel tool builders, something like this. And this is, according to the case study, users who clicked the first ad but did not sign up for a free trial were then excluded from seeing that ad and began to see this one instead. So basically, if someone interacted with that first ad, they would then, but they didn't actually buy or sign up for the free trial yet, they would then be moved on to seeing this ad within about a week of the first ad. The next step in the funnel was the help post. This is where they were working on building more credibility. They used a mix of traditional advertising and retargeting to promote it. And the post is on future trends. So you can imagine, what do they mean by that is the previous post might have been okay, where has the market come from? And then this is more about where is the market going and how can it help you, your business, your brand, in the context of just maybe subtly starting to introduce their product or kind of create an open loop related to almost it's in copywriting, it's called, you state the problem in terms of what is the pain, and then you twist the knife by, agitate. So problem, agitate, solution. That's kind of the similar approach that they're following here, but in a more content way. I think that's pretty unique too, because it's a little counterintuitive. It feels less salesy because, again, what is the context here? They're driving potential customers not to necessarily immediately go and check out and actually give them their email address. Although that they could do that once on the web page, and they could actually sign up as well. In some cases, they did. But they're driving them to just an ungated blog article. So they're focused on just delivering that value first with no restrictions around it. The fourth step was the first post that talks about their product, where they wrote this post about optimizing the checkout experience around a Shopify website. So by this point, people who saw this ad had been seeing the company's ads for 3 weeks. Again, notice and note the length of time, right? What is happening during this time? The prospect is getting warmed up. They're moving from a state of cold awareness to warm awareness, you could say. And again, if you put yourself in the shoes of the prospect, it feels a bit different, right? They're not asking for their email address. They're driving them directly to content, and this is happening over time. Okay, over time. And this type of funnel, it feels more organic, even though if you looked at it in your feed, it would say, this is a sponsored post, this is an advertiser trying to reach you. But because the results of that experience of clicking through, and it's not hey, can I have your email? Which again, can be very effective. But in this case, again, this is a boring funnel. It's simpler. There are fewer steps to it, right? You're just driving people to a blog article. So it feels more aligned with sort of an organic experience, almost as if a user had just shared this article directly online versus the advertiser saying, hey, here's an article, check it out. I think you might like it. The fifth step in this funnel was the killer feature post, where they focused on one killer product feature. In this case, they talked about upselling related to their product and how their product can help Shopify users actually to upsell existing customers on their Shopify store to basically add more items to their cart, thus increasing the average order value, thus increasing the company's revenue. And all the while, again, they're continuing the strategy of using traditional as well as retargeting ads. And this, again, helps to keep the cost down. The other part here that helps to keep the cost down is that they're not optimizing for some sort of conversion goal, as I was saying before, of opting in. Instead, they're optimizing for just getting the click. And that's something that Facebook is able to learn. The ads and the funnel here, they're asking for a lot less from prospective customers upfront. The sixth step was to actually, now that they had several posts, they repurposed those posts into an ebook, and then they promoted that. The ebook was called The Advanced Guide to E-commerce funnels, how e-commerce is set to change, and what you need to do to stay ahead. So this is most likely where they started to actually gate the content and require an email opt-in in order to get access to it. It's unclear from the case study that they necessarily did that. But based on the data that they're sharing here, how they collected over 1,000 new email contacts, my guess is that this is where they started to gate that content and require the opt-in at that point. This is also supported by the fact that spending about $4 for an email opt-in is kind of, especially in the marketing space, is a bit under what you would normally need to spend to acquire an email opt-in type of lead. Because why would it be less expensive than traditional for this industry? Well, it makes sense if they've seen these other blog articles and they're already gone from like a cold awareness to a warm awareness. So the conversion rate is naturally going to be higher from that. And now we come to the seventh step, which is the webinar. Since they already had 1,000 email contacts and they had 127 free trial signups, 38 new customers, netting them $11,400 in new monthly recurring revenue, or about, if you annualize that, $136,000 in ARR, annual recurring revenue. They decided to take it a step further with the webinar, which was to share how one of their clients, they would get on the webinar with one of their clients, had built a $1 million sales funnel using their product. And then they also advertised this on Facebook, both via retargeting and lookalike audiences, to further boost reach and to increase the attendance show-up rate. The webinar had 360 people register, and the final results aggregate total were that the company netted over $17,700 in new monthly recurring revenue, and annualized, that's $212,000 in new annual recurring revenue. So with this simple, boring 7-step sales funnel, what we're seeing is that, they're writing content, they're running ads to get people to see the content, to warm them up, going from a cold awareness to a warm awareness. And then at the end of that sequence, then they're making the ask for the email address and doing a little bit more of a harder pitch. They're first giving value, and then they're asking for something in return that, is more likely to be seen as something that is just giving further value because they first gave something that is valuable upfront. So these are exceptional results here. And I think that a big part of the difference that is not so well documented in this case study, reading between the lines here, is the fact of what I said before, that they were driving traffic to these individual blog articles and only looking for the opt-in and only looking to make the sale later on. I also believe that they invested probably a lot of time and effort into just editing that content that they were going to be giving to them, so that it was truly valuable. It wasn't some sort of AI slop content that we see so much of on the web today. It was, and by the way, give a thumbs up if you are against AI slop content for this video, because this is not AI. I am 100% real. But getting back to the point is, they put some time into actually reading, rereading, and editing this content, guaranteed. It was also a very smart move to repurpose it into an ebook, and then it seems like at least partially repurposing that content into a webinar, but in the form of sort of like a testimonial case study, getting one of their customers onto the call with them. And what's powerful about that, obviously, is social proof is powerful, but it's not about like what you say about yourself. It's so much more powerful when people can hear it from someone who isn't you, from someone who is a customer. Like, to be sold by a customer, I mean, that's huge. The next example that I'm going to go through with you here is what I call the buy now because it's cheap, it works, and you probably already know us funnel. This is grasshopper.com's super simple website funnel. It is one of the absolute just simplest funnels that I've seen out here in terms of looking and doing research. It's absolutely one of the simplest funnels in terms of just raw steps, like minimum steps required to actually go from point A to point B, which is to buy. So Grasshopper has been around for a while. They branded themselves as the phone system for entrepreneurs, and they were acquired some years back by Citrix for $161 million. And that's when $160 million actually meant something. I guess in terms of today's dollars adjusted for inflation, that's probably closer to about 300 million. So the latest public revenue for the company as well, just so you know, is $80 million in revenue for 2022. A big part of what Grasshopper has done in terms of their branding and the design of their funnels that has been particularly persuasive and effective is that they've consistently used aspirational and identity marketing. So aspirational, where like they're kind of like earlier founding designs, they would show an entrepreneur in a nice sports car driving across the country, kind of traveling. Meanwhile, the phone system made them look like $1 billion business because it would be professional, push 1 for sales, push 2 for, customer support, something like this, right? So it's the idea of they're selling what you aspire to be, especially for startups, which you're just getting started. You need a phone number. You want to look legit. And, that is what they were selling, that image. It helps your image. It helps your conversion rate. And that data backed this up too. And frankly, I've seen it in our business too. It just adds a layer of credibility if you can call, 1-800, whatever your number is. And we've been lucky because I think all the 800 numbers are much more difficult to get now. And we've had ours for some time with Grasshopper. We're actually been a customer. So I'm speaking from the position of someone who has actually been persuaded by this funnel years ago, and I've been watching it over time. And I've seen how their funnel has changed over time. I've even modeled past products, like we launched a couple of SaaS products. I've even modeled those partially off of Grasshopper's design because I'm not an easy sell, but also because it just seemed very logical and clear. It was like what was being offered, why is it beneficial, and then making it very easy to buy. So in Grasshopper's case, a big part of what they are leveraging and what is effective for them. And let's just take a quick look at like an older version of their homepage. So you can see that here on the screen. And this headline is getting a little bit away from the entrepreneur angle. They're talking about small business. You can see now here today, they've kind of come back to that. So they're constantly, this is a company who is constantly A/B testing because they know the lifetime value of one new customer to their business. Like for us, it's been since the company was founded 15 years ago and, paying $20 to $30 a month. Yeah, it's certainly profitable for them. And so they know their numbers and they just have to be better at their marketing. Their product is solid and they haven't really innovated on it, to my knowledge, very much. And frankly, I don't think they really need to unless there's some sort of disruptive competitor that comes out. Here's another page that they used to have on their website. They still kind of have this spread across like different ways, but like their homepage used to drive as a secondary step. You can see here in the navigation, it'll go from home to how it works and features. And, you can also just, again, see that aspirational marketing. Okay, like there's a Mercedes, the entrepreneurs in the car, get calls, voicemails, faxes, anywhere. Kind of like presents the entrepreneur as like the boss, just kind of chilling and, growing his organization, and customers are able to reach him or the, employees on the team. And it's a nice visual. It's simple. It's easy to understand. And then final step here is they were dropping to the pricing page to actually check out. But here's what they changed, and I'll explain why they did this and why this is so effective and what they're leveraging by doing this. Because again, if a change is made over and maintained for a certain period of time for a company like Grasshopper, you can generally bet that they did it because it's working for them. But you also need to understand, like, why is it working? Why is this boring 2-step funnel? I guess 3, depending on how you count it. But it's what they actually did was they cut out this middle page. So it used to be, again, how it works and features. Again, just kind of explaining to them. But now it's just, okay, you go to the homepage, boom, buy now, and right there, you're on the pricing page. You can see like how the numbers were also kind of spinning and rotating. Again, that's probably some other A/B test they've either run or they're currently running. And they're pumping, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of prospects through this funnel every single month. So the data is pretty reliable. By now, it's basically it's very fast to load. Obviously, another factor, increasing the conversions. It looks like it's actually JavaScript too. So you could, it's kind of debatable about whether this is actually multiple pages. It's certainly multiple steps, but, pick your phone number, again, making it very easy, very seamless. Okay. Continue. So you got, your information, you're on checkout. So I guess you could call this like the third page if you want to count it that way. But again, very, very simple. Now, why is this set up like this? Why is this working for them? Why is it adding undoubtedly millions of dollars to their revenue and probably their bottom line every single year? Well, the reason is that they are so well established. They've done such an excellent job in the market over time that they're relatively well known by many entrepreneurs. Like you need to start a business. Okay, you need to incorporate and you need a phone number. Okay, and who do you think of when you think of phone number? You think of Grasshopper. Okay, they've done an excellent job. Like for example, they launched with this viral video that they would send out to influencers with chocolate covered grasshoppers, and it was kind of like an 80s style, like in the office video. It was very clever, and yeah, so that's why it works, and it's an interesting example of the law of friction from Growbo's 11 laws of sales funnel physics. So if you go to if you search on Google for Growbo 11 laws of sales or 11 laws sales funnel physics, you'll find the complete list of all 11 laws. I encourage you to read up on them. And the law of friction basically says that by removing or adding steps, generally by removing steps or requirements, like on a form, for example, or fewer pages in a funnel, like in this case, you're going to increase the throughput of that system or of that funnel. It's possible that in a lead generation scenario that the quality of leads can go down, right? But here's an example from Expedia where they removed one form field and they added $12 million in new revenue per year just from removing company name from their checkout form. So that's an example of the law of friction in action. And again, if you're doing lead generation, you might want to consider too how, which is different from like purchasing something online, that actually adding or modifying form fields to require just a little more work from people can actually increase the quality of leads. Because sometimes increasing the throughput doesn't necessarily increase the quality of the leads that you're getting. It might actually decrease the quality of leads. But again, that's different for different businesses, like doing products, selling a product, like in this case, versus selling a service. The next funnel is from Client Boost. This is just like a ridiculously simple, basic, dull, boring funnel in the sense that I think in some ways it's actually simpler in terms of overall design and copy compared to Grasshopper, but they're actually significantly less well known than Grasshopper, but it's working for them as a company. And this company is doing over $20 million in revenue per year. Their last publicly shared revenue numbers were $20 million in 2021. And that's where they doubled revenue from 10 million to 20 million. They have over 250 active clients as of last public reporting. Again, this could be many months out of date, that number. And if their average client spend, which I think is actually higher than this, is somewhere around $10,000 or $15,000 per month, chances are that they're doing probably closer to $30 million or more per year right now. So this is a very successful business. This is, they're not a productized service. I'll give you an example of a productized tech-enabled service coming up in a moment. But with Client Boost, they're a PPC, pay-per-click. That's how they got started. They now brand themselves as a performance marketing agency. And they do an excellent job of the branding. This is one of the key things that stands out. It doesn't feel visually complicated on the page. See how they're associating their brand in a very cute and cool way with money. It's like, okay, you sign up for us. We know what you're here for. You want to make more money. And what are they offering? Why should you click? Get a free marketing plan. So they're offering some sort of specific deliverable that you can have, right? And that's why I call it the free consultation with a deliverable funnel. Okay, so this is the example that I was, one of the examples I was referencing that are out there in terms of boring sales funnels that they don't have a ton of copy. I mean, look at how just simple in terms of like the amount of text overall. There's not a lot. It's probably, let's see, about, I don't know, like certainly between 200 to 300 words of copy on the page, not counting, I mean, if you count links, I guess it maybe bumps up closer to 300. But they also just have this kind of like cartoonish sort of, cool, cute vibe that they have going on in terms of the branding. That don't underestimate the power of that. That is, I mean, they're putting faces on things. Look at this cute little guy right here, right? I mean, don't you just want to trust him and give him all your contact information? I mean, but yeah, no, they work with companies too, who are like, they have a minimum around $5,000 to $10,000 is like the minimum ad spend that they will take on clients with. But it's excellent branding. They've been around for a while. So here's the first step in their funnel that is bringing in between $20 to $30 million or more for this company annually. So again, they're associating themselves with money. They're talking about how they're focused on performance for their clients. They're talking about how many case studies they have. They're showing, okay, we're going to look at your website, at your overall marketing big picture. We're going to diagnose, what it is that we think we can do in terms of CRO, SEO, performance creative, paid advertising, and so on. They talk about success stories. They're kind of like with a little bit of, a little bit of zing to it, a little bit of confidence. Like, we have more success stories than other agencies have clients. Oh, damn, gauntlet has been thrown down, right? I got these video case study testimonials. Again, like, people buy from people, and to the extent that you can like really humanize your design, this is also just a conversion hack that I found that works really well over and over again. We are biologically and psychologically just pre-programmed to recognize and hone in on faces. Okay, it applies to social media. Like, for example, in the past, from different events that I've hosted, where either I'll be in a professional setting or even in a personal setting, and I'll look at the analytics before and after, the posts that have like people's faces in it, even if it's just like my face, but usually more often like with a group of people hanging out, or doing something, professional or personal in the area where I live. It's something on the order of magnitude of like 3 to 6 times more views are actually achieved, and more engagement are achieved for those types of posts. And it's very, very similar in terms of conversion rates for your funnel. So again, what's the recurring pattern that we're seeing here? Boring converts, in part because there's a lot of thought and substance that goes into said funnel. It's not just like it's like 2 steps. Like, how the hell did they do this? How can I do this? Right? They're leveraging their social proof, their reputation. They're positioning themselves as, okay, how we're different from the norm, from the average, how we do better for you. They're also giving, some of their content from their podcast as well. So now let's move on to the next step, which is, their primary lead magnet, their primary call to action across their site. And sure, I guess you could make the argument that, for some of these examples like Grasshopper and this one, where it's like, oh, but Matt, they have multiple steps or other pages in their front. It's like, yeah, you do, and you kind of need that with any sort of website. But in terms of a straight shot, I mean, they are running retargeting ads, they are running pay-per-click ads, they are running meta ads, everything under the sun to this homepage, with the goal that people, even if they take kind of like a circuitous route through these other pages just to kind of like get more familiar. I mean, it's and those pages are also well thought out, but again, this is the core. Okay, this is the core that is working for them. So it's not that we are discounting those; it's that we're focusing on like what is the core that really matters. Because you can have a single page website; it can be done. You just put more on the same page. But again, it's about the substance, and it's about and then how the design helps to deliver that. Okay. And it doesn't have to be so visually complex. So again, you select, what you want to do. They also give you a sneak peek video down here in terms of like what is the deliverable, right? It increases the desire for the deliverable because it explains like what is it, what is included in it, why is it valuable, and it makes you want, oh, I want this thing. And I don't know if WebMD is one of their clients, but you can imagine that a well-known brand is probably one of their clients, but it's like just further social proof, right? And again, you got that human touch with the founder in the bottom left-hand corner. He's on camera. He's talking about it face to face with you. Got more social proof here at the bottom. Okay, again, it's all driven towards persuading you to finish filling this out. So again, like you can see the call to action, it's changing as I've completed the first step, almost there. Okay. And then you got the company website, name, guys at Client Boost. I do apologize for spamming you guys, but we're going through your funnel here. And there you go. You got your thank you page where they have your contact information, but you're encouraged to also, reach out and rather to actually just book your call, because they'll probably try to reach out to you proactively at this point, but they're capturing the contact information and qualifying you first before you actually can book into their calendar. You can see too how this form is pre-filled. That's kind of a best practice. Again, like law of friction, less work. I don't know why they don't pre-fill the name field. That would probably incrementally help their conversion rate. But other than that, again, that's 3 steps. You got your homepage. You got your fill out the form to get your free deliverable, which is the marketing plan page. And then you have the actual thank you / booking page as the final step. Now let's look at a final example, which is from my company, Growbo. And this is the funnel that helped us to grow 936% in 8 months. I mean, it was quite the ride. That's almost 1,000% growth. That's almost 10x growth in 8 months. And I assure you, there was a lot of work. It was very exciting and a lot of lessons learned on terms of like how to scale during that period. So here is the funnel that really powered the vast majority of that growth. And some of it is invisible, which I'll explain in a second. So basically, we really only started to take off once two things kind of got locked in for us. We were producing quality content on a regular weekly basis, twice a week. Okay, 2 quality articles per week, Tuesday and Thursday. And then later on, we ramped it up to Fridays would be, like kind of our sales newsletter where people who would visit our pricing page, we would segment them and we'd send them, hey, here's some social proof, here's a case study, here's some new work that we did for clients. Don't you want to delegate all your digital marketing projects and tasks without the headaches of hiring? Great. Growbo gives you a team on demand for a flat monthly fee at a fraction of the cost of what it would cost to hire a one full-time VA. You should sign up right now. And so we had content, the Friday newsletter, the Tuesday, Thursday quality content going out. And so that was kind of percolating in the background. Didn't hit right away. We were getting some initial like it was slow growing results, right? And we really took time and quality and care into actually like writing that content. I mean, people today are so concerned about SEO, and SEO is kind of dying and has been severely just hampered by the fact that we're now in the age of AI and Google at the top of search results, as I talked about in a previous video. AI overviews at the top of Google search results and other search engines. It's really harming the click-through rate for businesses who produce content, who had hoped to still be ranking and getting traffic as a result of producing great content. So you can put the focus on that, but ultimately, like if you write quality content, that content, it's still going to spread organically. Other people are going to share it with other people in the marketplace. If it is actually something that is good and not some AI slop that, you just sort of like said, hey, ChatGPT, hey, Claude, can you just run my business for me so I don't have to think? I mean, people are smart. They're smarter than a lot of people in business give them credit for. And if you just are trying to take some AI article, I saw from I'm not going to name his name, but I saw something where I think it might have been a test as well, but screw it, I'll say his name. Neil Patel. Again, I've interviewed Neil in the past. I really respect him as a marketer. I think he's amazing in terms of his consistency and his devotion to building his business over time. So I definitely admire and respect the guy. But there was a newsletter sent a couple of weeks back where I saw it and I was like, and I clicked through and it was like, what is this AI slop? Like it was just poorly written. It was not the quality standard that I've come to be used to in terms of his brand. So hopefully they saw the data on that and course corrected somehow. But it definitely temporarily harmed my view of his brand and made me less engaged with his emails going forward. So, and that's exactly what is happening on a massive scale, because while more people are producing more content, faster and in higher volume than ever before, again, it's just a lot of noise and people are easily able to identify, okay, who is worth listening to and who is not, based on the quality of the words and the ideas and the storytelling and so on and so on. In this case, though, we were writing content, getting back to the funnel here, we're writing content. So that's happening at the same time. That's kind of the invisible part of the funnel happening here is quality content. And then on top of that, we started running ads to drive people to download our 33 examples. It was actually called the 29 examples of projects that you can delegate to Growbo at the time. And here's, more or less kind of like what it looked like. The design has changed over time, but the offer and the content is, was generally the same as what you see on the screen here. I think people would, opt in. I think we might have asked what type of business are you? But other than that, just, first name, last name. So it's basically a bottom of the funnel type of brochure, right? Here's what we can do for you. Don't you want to learn about the examples that you can delegate and here's a work to us? So people would opt in for that. They would come to the what we call the congrats after opt-in page, basically kind of like the thank you page. It says everything you requested, is on its way to your inbox. In the meantime, watch our 20-minute demo video where we show you how you can delegate unlimited marketing projects without the headaches of hiring to Growbo. And so then we got a significantly higher opt-in rate on this as a direct result of the fact that they already opted on one thing. Basically, if you have multiple steps in a funnel, you should almost always see the conversion rate more or less increase as you get deeper in the funnel. Because let's say that you have 100 people on page A and 10% of them click through to page B. What's the likelihood, generally speaking, everything else being equal, that the call to action on page B is going to be clicked on to drive people to page C? What percentage? Is it going to be 10%? No, it's going to be higher. It's going to be something like 30 to 50% probably. If unless your copy is terrible or something is broken, or if it's just something completely just out of alignment. See one of the most important laws of sales funnel physics, which is the law of alignment from our framework. Yeah, so people would opt in for that. They may or may not watch the demo video immediately after, but we'd have an email sequence that would just follow up with them, educate them a bit more, make sure that they got the guide, checked it out, encourage them to then come back, watch the demo video. They could also click through to our homepage or watch the demo video directly. So it's kind of like split path, if you will, right there. And then we bring them to the pricing page, simple pricing with no contracts. Okay. And people would select their package and then they would check out. That's it. This is what allowed us to go from 10K MRR to over $100,000 in monthly recurring revenue in 8 months. And you can see it's relatively simple, right? But where is the difficult thing? Because so many people are so focused on the tactical and the getting it right. It's less about like how many emails you sent. It's less about how many pages there are. It's so much more about the content, okay, of those steps in your funnel and the context with which people are arriving into your funnel. Because with us, it's like, yes, the algorithm at Facebook did a really good job of targeting people who would be aligned with opting in to this brochure type of offer. But a lot of people opting in, those are people who are also seeing our content, who are also seeing it, sharing it, reading it already. So they're kind of predisposed to know about us. They're already aware of us. Okay, that's one of the key things I want you to take away here from this lesson. So we saw it starting with the 7-step funnel, where there's the content in this case was kind of a unique funnel in a way. Like there's no gate, there's no restriction around getting people to actually click through to get access to the content. It's just like a blog post, like, hey, here you go. And then at the end, are they selling it? So that they're taking a longer period of time to warm people up. It's not a big ask. And again, with Client Boost, kind of different but similar. It's like, again, like you're going to get a free marketing plan. You're going to get some sort of fixed deliverable that normally many businesses would charge for, or they just give less. They would just give a free consultation, right? But you can still do that. You just have to, sell it and package it well. That's essentially what they're doing here. They're just packaging it in their own unique way with the branding, associating themselves like with money, with performance, this type of a thing, and with some sort of, benefit that you're guaranteed to get. Because that's often why people don't want to hop on a call. They like, what am I going to get out of this? Like, I'm just going to this is like a sales call, right? But in this case, they've sort of reframed that. No, we're going to give this to you. We're going to learn about your business. You're guaranteed to get this. And yeah, of course, you're going to be upsold on something later, but you don't have to take it. Similar to, again, with Grasshopper, what's the context with which people are coming into their funnel? Well, again, they're putting out content, all right, but they've also by putting out content, by partnering with influencers, like how they launched their business in the first place, and branding themselves as the phone system for entrepreneurs, and then further simplifying their funnel in part because they had this reputation, because a lot of people already knew about them, trusted them. And if you know what it is and you know that it works, you don't need as complex a funnel. You can just go and buy it immediately. Hence, they have the simpler funnel here. So as promised, those are 4 examples of boring sales funnels, along with lots of tactical, actionable insights for you to remember, take notes on, take action on, so that you can get better results for your own business and your own product or service offering. But I'd love to hear from you. What was the most powerful insight where something just kind of clicked for you, or you said, okay, I can see this working for us? What were your aha moments in this video? And if you found this video valuable, please consider liking, subscribing to the channel if you're watching on YouTube, and sharing this with at least one other person who you believe would find it valuable.